Hello everybody and welcome back to LMM, and if you're enjoying what you're seeing on the channel at the moment, how about giving this video a like and maybe subscribing to the channel to help us grow, and perhaps even check out our Patreon. Today we're at the Mid-Suffolk Light Railway and I have brought my fire engine to the gala, although that's not particularly important right now because today is about the locomotives. We have 3 engines running today at the railway, and today has been a typically Aprilish day and it's threatening to rain, but yesterday me and the guys were crewing and it was glorious. This was my first turn of the year at the Mid-Suffolk Light Railway, and we were kicking off the season in the best possible way with a gala with 3 steam engines running. Me and the guys were rostered on the brand new resident, Andrew Barclay number 2315 of 1951. The other locomotives in service were the Visitor from the Middleton Railway and owned by the Vintage Carriage Trust, Sir Berkeley, and also making its last appearance before overhaul, Andrew Barclay number 2138 of 1941, Swordfish. There was an intensive timetable in operation involving double heading, top and tailing and multiple locomotive swaps throughout the day, ensuring an action-packed day for both the locomotive crews and for the public who were visiting. It was quite an honour to be rostered on the new resident engine's first public day. We were somewhat the guinea pigs to see just what it was capable of and what the next few years of traction at the Mid-Suffolk Light Railway were going to be like. The sun shone, the skies were blue and the railway was heaving, and it was an amazing atmosphere to be part of when the railway was presenting itself in such an amazing day. And once all was said and done and we'd finished for the day, we headed home, ready to return and film the next day. Obviously, I've done this the wrong way round. I should have filmed yesterday when the weather was glorious and been on the footplate today when the weather is a bit more, questionable. But enough about that. Let's go back in time to when they were prepping the engines first thing this morning. Today featured the same 3 locomotives that had been in service yesterday, although today they had different crews. The first engine to move today was Sir Berkeley, as it pulled forward in order to be able to take coal. Here at the Mid-Suffolk Light Railway, we still coal locomotives manually, which means a lot of elbow grease and hard work first thing in the morning to make sure you have enough coal to get the locomotive through the day's service. Soon enough though, through the hard work of the fireman and the cleaner, Sir Berkeley was ready to move off and to go onto the pit. This was the first time in the Mid-Suffolk Light Railway's 125-year history that two Andrew Barclay locomotives had been on the railway at the same time, and certainly it was the first time that two of them had ever been steamed together, so this was all pretty exciting. The next stage was, as Swordfish had finished all its preparation work, it was coming off the pit so that Sir Berkeley could go over the pit and have all of its preparation completed as well. However, to facilitate this, both the Barclays would have to move down the line so not to foul the point that went onto the pit. Once they'd done so, Sir Berkeley could move down, and then Swordfish could move back up to the coaling stage in order to take coal. And once again, we reverted to the good old manual techniques for coaling up. As the bunker is behind the cab on Swordfish, it's easier to use a shovel and actually throw the stuff into the bunker than to try and position a bag in the right place and pour it into it. And meanwhile, while Swordfish was being coaled, Sir Berkeley was over the pit receiving its attention. As most of the motion is in the inside, the only way you can get to it to oil it is to go underneath via the pit. Galas are always a really good social aspect for volunteers, as everybody comes together and pulls in the same direction, and we're all as excited as you to be putting this event on. And with all the prep work done on Sir Berkeley, it moved off pit while Swordfish went and coupled up to the rear of the Mid-Suffolk Light Railway's vintage Great Eastern coaches. From the rear, there's coach 12, built in 1875, coach 13, built in 1876, and then coach 140, built in 1868. Once Swordfish had managed to pull them clear, Sir Berkeley could move up into the platform. Meanwhile, 2315 moved down onto the pit ready for its preparation. And with Sir Berkeley sitting safe in the platform, the train was called back on so it could be coupled up, ready to form the first service of the day. And then we were away with the first train of the day heading down the line. Meanwhile, 2315 had finished its turn over the pit and had moved over to the coal stage and was now receiving bags of coal into its bunker. And soon after that, Swordfish led the train into the platform down at Dovebrook. And then it was time to return up the bank to Brockford. After a couple of trips top and tailing, Swordfish was taken off from the back of the train and entered the loop, leaving Sir Berkeley alone to run some solo trips. Having Sir Berkeley at the railway was a real treat for all of us involved and those who know the history of the Mid-Suffolk Light Railway. This was the first time in preservation that a Manning Wardle had graced our rails, and Sir Berkeley is very similar to the contractor's locomotive that was used to build the line way back in 1900. So having something working trains so similar to that which built the railway over 100 years ago. After a few more trips of charging up and down the line, it was time for another locomotive change. To make this happen, Sir Berkeley took the 3 coaches down to the other end of the line. And whilst it was doing that, the 2 Andrew Barclays coupled together, forming the first ever Andrew Barclay doubleheader in the Mid-Suffolk Light Railway's 125-year history. At Dovebrook, Sir Berkeley came off the train and ran round into the siding. And once Sir Berkeley was out of the way, the double header of Andrew Barclays made their way down the line and could then go and couple up to the train. As a volunteer at the Mid-Suffolk Light Railway, it was an amazing sight to see 3 steam locomotives together at Dovebrook. It's not something that we get to see often at all. After a few runs of the groundbreaking double-header Barclays, the smaller locomotive was taken off, leaving Swordfish to run some of its last solo trips of its current boiler certificate. This event was its last showing, and after this it's going to be taken out of traffic for its 10-year overhaul, so this was slightly bittersweet. The next move was to bring the MSLR's new resident onto the back of the train. And having coupled up, a further shunt took place in order to swap Swordfish for Sir Berkeley, making up the last formation of the day's running. And having completed a couple more trips which brought the day to a close, 2315 performed a shunt release to allow Sir Berkeley to set back and head onto shed. With Sir Berkeley over the pit ready for its next day in service, which was going to be a photo charter, 2315 propelled the stock back into the platform. And then finally, completing all the movements for the day, it could move around and go onto shed. And with all that shunting, it is the end of the day here at the Mid-Suffolk Light Railway. So Berkeley is sat over the pit ready for its next turn as it's doing a couple of other things here at the railway. This has been one of our most successful events ever. And yesterday, driving trains, I came up the line, seeing the line side packed with people all the way along the public area here and into the platform. And it was glorious to see so many of you guys coming along and showing interest in this tiny railway. It has been fantastic, and everyone here is really proud of how this little railway has been. And if you have enjoyed this one, how about clicking somewhere over there for another couple of videos that I've done here at the Mid-Suffolk Light Railway. My only downside about the entire event is I didn't actually get to touch that one, and that's genuinely upsetting because that's glorious and I didn't get a go on that. But I did get to drive the first ever double-header Berkeley at the Mid-Suffolk Light Railway, so that's something, I guess. Ta-ra!